Good morning, students. So in the last class we have seen the state diagram of a process and how the transition of different states take place with the help of a state transition diagram, right? So in today's class we will see one more state transition diagram in which uh, two new states are included, where in the last class you might remember I discussed at the last I discussed the suspended processes, right? So what do you mean by suspended process? Whenever the operating system has a limited amount of memory, let us say it has a memory which can hold only two processes, right? Let us say P1 and P2, right? So if one more process comes, P3, then it doesn't find any space in this memory. Then what operating system will do? It will check the frequency of these two processes which were available in the memory, that is either P1 or P2. Then it will replace one of the process by P3. So it will replace one of the process by P3. So what it does, it will check the frequency of either P1 and P2, right? So let us say P1 has a less frequency of execution. Then what it does, once the P3 arrives, P1 will be replaced by P3, right? So in such a way that in such a way the operating system will create a space in the memory so that it can hold the incoming process P3. Okay, so in such cases there are two operations need to be taken place by the operating system, right? So the first one is the P1 has to be removed from the memory, right? So let us say this is a main memory. So once and P3 is remaining in the P3 is there in the secondary memory, right? So if the operating system want to schedule that particular process, the process has to be brought from the secondary memory to main memory, right? Then only the operating system can select that particular process for scheduling, right? So what happens here? First, the operating system has to remove this process P1 from the main memory. So that process is called the swapped out process. The P1 process is swapped out from the main memory, right? So this process of removing the process from the main memory is called swapped out, right? So once the process P1 is swapped out from the main memory, so it will create a space for a new process, right? So in that case process P3 is swapped in, right? So it will be brought inside the main memory from the secondary memory. So this process of bringing a new process into a main memory is called swapped in, right? So this process is called swapping, right? So these two operations the operating system must perform before scheduling of a new process, right? So once P1 is removed from the main memory, it will be taken to a secondary memory, right? So and the state of the P1 will be denoted as a suspend, right? So the process P1 will become now a suspended process, right? So let us see what do you mean by a suspended process. Consider a process that was in a ready and a blocked state when it got swapped out of the memory, right? So later we will see what are these different states. The process swapped out, I think you understood, right? So taking out the process from the main memory is called a swap out process. The process needs to be swapped back into the main memory, right, as per my discussion, before it can resume its activity. Hence it is no longer in the ready or blocked state, right? So the kernel must define a new state for it. So we call such a process as a suspended process, right? So in my example, P1 will become a suspended process. So when the suspended process is to resume its old activity, it should go back to the state it was in when it was suspended, right? So from the state diagram you will understand the concept more clear, right? Let us say a new process comes, it will be always in a ready state, right? So a process will assume that every resources are available and it can start executing itself on the central processor unit. So once a new process comes into a ready state, right? So this four states, these four states I have already explained in the previous class, right? Only I have to explain these two processes. Let me revise the same thing what I discussed in the last class, right? So after that we will go to ready swapped and blocked swapped, right? A new process always be there in a ready state. So once the operating system creates an environment to execute that particular process, then the ready state of a process will be changed to a running state. Now because the CPU is allocated to that particular process and that process starts running on the central processor unit. So in that case, the state of the process will become a running state, right? So when the process P1 is running, let us say it doesn't request for any kind of resources, right? So it takes very less amount of time for its execution. Then what happens, once the execution of that particular process is finished, then its state will be changed to running to terminated. So this transition takes place once the execution of that particular process is over, right? The state of the process will become a terminated state, right? So let us say P1 is such a complex process. Let us say it requests for certain resources to the operating system. Then what happens, process P1 will request for a particular resource, and or it will wait for a request or a result from the other process. In such cases, what happens, if operating system cannot provide the resources or the resources are not available with the operating system, then what happens, the process state will be changed from running to blocked. Even when the results are not available from the other processes, the process has to wait. Instead of waiting in a running state, it will wait in a blocked state, so that the other processes can be scheduled, right? So this transition takes place when the operating system doesn't have, this transition takes place only when the operating system doesn't have available resources, right? So the state of the process will be changed to blocked state, right? So once it enters into a blocked state, right, so it will be released from the blocked state only when that particular resource is allocated to that particular process, right? So here you can see the resource is granted or the wait completed. When wait completes, whenever the results are available from the other processes. So in such case, the state of the process P1 will be changed from block to ready. So once it gets into a ready state, so operating system creates an environment to execute that, and once CPU is allocated to that particular process, again the state of the process will be changed from ready to running. So in this manner, these four states will operate, right? And these are the events which takes place between these states, right? So now you worry about these two, right? So let us say when the process P1 is in blocked state, right? So let us say same example we will take what I took in the last explanation, that is P1 here, P2 here, and one more process P3 comes inside, right? So in this case, operating system will check the frequency of either P1 or P2. If P1 is less frequently executed, then P1 has to be replaced by P3. So what happens here, since P1 is in blocked state, right, so that has to be swapped out from the main memory, right? So this is main memory and this is secondary memory, right? So P3 is available in the secondary memory, and once P3 arises for its scheduling, then operating system will check the frequency of P1 and P2. If P1 is less frequently executed, then P1 has to be swapped out from the main memory and P3 is brought into the main memory, right? So this transition takes place, that is from blocked state to blocked swapped, right? So it remains, previously it was remaining in blocked state. So once the process P1 is removed or the swapped out from the main memory, then the state of the process P1 will become blocked swapped, right? So it will tell you the two states, right? So initially, before swapping out, it was in blocked state. So once it is swapped means the process is swapped from the main memory to secondary memory, right? So swap out and once it is swapped in. So I hope you understood when the process state will be changed from block to swapped out. Since it is in block state, because it has requested for resources, right, and due to its less frequency of execution, what happens, the operating system will make a space for a new process. So in that case, the process P1 will be swapped out from the main memory and it will be kept in a secondary memory by stating that its state is blocked swapped. That means before swapping out of the main memory, it was in block state, and swapped means it has swapped out from the main memory, right? So I hope you understood the fifth state, that is blocked swapped, right? So once P3, again let us say if again now P3 has come into a main memory, right? So what operating system does, it will execute P2 and P3, starts executing P2 and P3, right? So once, let us assume that P2 has executed, or it has finished its execution, then P2 will be removed from the main memory, right? So there will be one space, there will be a space left to accommodate one process. Let us say this is P2, and let us assume, sorry, this is P3. Let us assume P2 has finished its execution, then P2 will be removed from the main memory. So once the P2 is removed from the main memory, space is left in a main memory to accommodate one more process. Now which process is swapped in? The process which was swapped out, which was P1. So that will be swapped in, and its state will be changed from blocked swap to blocked swap to blocked state, right? So this is swapped, right? So once P3 finishes or P2 finishes its execution, P1 will be brought back into the main memory and its state will be changed from block swap to blocked, right? Next, let us assume the P1 was in block state and it was swapped out and it entered into blocked swapped, right? So in that case, when P1 was in block swapped state, and if resource is granted, the same event, let us say here you can see, when it was in block state, it will change to ready state once the resource is granted or the wait is completed. So even the same event occurs with that particular process when it was in block swapped, right? So what it will to which state it will jump? It will jump into a ready swap because it has already swapped it, right? So P1 is present in a secondary memory. It is present in secondary memory and it was requesting for the resources, and once those resources are granted by the operating system, the state of the P1 which was in blocked swapped, it will become a ready swap. That means it is already a swap, it is already a swapped process, and now after granting the resources, the blocked state will become a ready state. That is the only difference between block swapped and ready swapped. Once before the execution of the granting of the resources to the process, it was in block swap. Once the resources are granted, it will become a ready swap, right? So now once it enters into a ready swap, now what will be the state after that particular process is swapped in? It will be equal to ready state, right? So swapped out, when it was in ready state, once it is swapped out, so it will be it is entering into a ready swapped state, right? And once it is swapped in, then it will enter back into a ready state, right? So in this manner the suspended process states, right? So these two states are the suspended process states. Okay, so in this manner the suspended process states are included in the normal state transition diagram. So this will be a complete state transition diagram for processes, right? So even when it is asked in the examination, you explain it with a suspended process, right? Instead of explaining only the first four states, that is ready, running, blocked and terminated, you also explain ready, swap and block swap. In that case, what happens, even if he wants to cut the marks, then he will not, he will stop himself to cutting the marks, then he will give the full marks. Okay, next, moving to the next slide. So here we are going to see what is a process context and the process control block, right? So this is very important, right? So once the process starts executing, then how operating system will come to know that what is the state of the process, or which process has completed its execution, because there are a number of processes which are running in a computer system. Then how operating system will identify whether that particular process has requested for the resources, and whether it has swapped out of the main memory, or it has finished its execution, right? So all those informations will be available in a table which we call it as a process control block. In short, we call it as PCB, right? So it is process control block. Neither it is not a printed circuit board, because we are not talking about a hardware concept here, right? So we are talking about a software concept. So PCB stands for process control block, right? So all the information regarding the process is existing in this block, hence it is called a process control block, or the block which is going to control the execution of the process is called a process control block, right? So now we will see what is a process context. The kernel allocates resources to a process, this we have already known, and schedules it for use of a CPU, right? So once the process requests for its execution, then what happens? The operating system will allocate a CPU to that particular process, and whenever it requests for the resources, and those resources will be granted by the operating system, right? So accordingly, the kernel's view of a process consists of two parts, right? So once it is once that particular process is scheduled for its execution, then the kernel's view of that process consists of two parts. So what was those two parts? The first one is code, data, and stack of the process, right? So process is nothing but an executable form of a program, right? So it has a set of instructions, and those instructions are going to be executed on the central processor unit, right? So in this case, the kernel how it is going to weave that particular process, it is going to weave in two different manner. The one is code, because the process has a code and it also has a data, and it also has some procedures or functions, right? The stack of a process comes into picture, or so as I discussed in the first module, the stack will come into picture only when the procedures or the functions are being called by the main program, right? And information concerning the memory and other resources such as files which are allocated to it, right? So kernel is going to view all these things. One is the code of a process or a program, you can say, the data on which it is going to work on, and the functions, what are the functions that particular process is going to call. Then the other resources, like which all resources are it is going to request, and the resources which are granted to the particular process, and which are the different files which are opened or the closed, or which are opened in either read or write mode. All these informations will be viewed by the kernel, right? The second one is information concerning execution of a program, such as the process state and the CPU state, including the stack pointer, right? So once the process starts executing, the kernel has to maintain information about the state of the process also, whether it is in a ready state, running state, and all, right? So in brief, we are going to see it. So in detail, we are going to see these things in next slide, okay?